Right, welcome to another video. Been meaning to get out, but the weather locally has been horrific the last few weeks. We actually had record rain. I think it was a month's worth of rain over 2 days locally here, leading to some massive floods and travel advisories and all that sort of stuff. And this weekend, being a long weekend, naturally it's rained for most of it. So I thought I'd record this video just covering my experience with the GFX system and why you might be considering it yourself. So a little bit of background. I have some notes here in case anyone's wondering why I'm looking down here. I moved from full frame Canon to the Fuji X series back in 2014. So spent the better part of the last 10 years shooting on Fujifilm. And back in 2022 I had the opportunity to upgrade due to an inheritance, due to my father passing away of cancer. So after doing all the responsible sort of stuff, I set aside some money to upgrade my camera gear. And I had two paths to go down. So one was completely round out my X series kit. So I had X-T4 at the time. That would have involved getting 50 to 140, 100 to 400, a couple extra primes, maybe the 8 to 16, and really just completing that kit so I had all bases covered and I never had to worry about buying a lens for that kit ever again. That said, Fuji have just released a 500 5.6, which would have tempted me if I was still in that system, for photography that is. So, or the other option was to move to the GFX system, and at the time it was pretty much a now or never sort of thing. It was either stick with the X series, or this is your one and only time to have the opportunity to go into the GFX system. So I did that, pulled the trigger and got this. So this is the GFX100S, and I've been shooting with this primarily for the last 2 years, and just recently upgraded to the 100S2. But the last 2 years have been shot on this guy. So I'll go over a few pros and cons for the system that I've found that as a landscape shooter, yeah, so we'll move on from there. First of all, the ergonomics of the system for me I really like. The shift from the X series dials, which are what they're known for, wasn't a biggie for me because I was actually quite blasphemous and set it up with the shutter speed on the front dial and ISO on the rear dial. So the shift to your standard PASM dial wasn't a biggie for me. It's actually how I prefer things anyway. And it's a nice size body for giant mitts like these. My little pinky finger doesn't hang off the end like it does with the X series, and it fits my hands nicely. Everything is within sort of reach of thumb and forefinger, so your shutter and your front dial, rear dial and joystick are perfectly placed for my hand, which is awesome. The lenses for the system are pretty much incredible all round. I don't think there is a traditionally bad lens in the system. There's some lenses that I've not gelled with, but that's not a fault of their performance. It's just a fault of my preferences as a photographer, and my preferences for the Fuji cameras and the way they're set up. But yeah, they're all sharp, they're all weather resistant, they're all well built, and perform very, very well. And yeah, hard to fault. The dynamic range of these cameras is very good. Slightly better than full frame, but not much better. Like, I wouldn't say that it's noticeably different, but it's an improvement for sure. Definitely an improvement over the X series, and yeah, if that's something you're looking for, that's something that's very important to you, then the dynamic range of the particularly the 100 megapixel sensors, is fantastic. So that big boy there. Going from that, these 100 megapixel sensors, the detail on them is fantastic. You're able to crop in quite a lot. So you can crop in more than double and still have 20 plus megapixels available to you, which is a handy thing. And it gives you sort of compositional freedom to take your shot where you need it to go. Having all that resolution and detail means you can print really big. I have a couple of canvases that I've printed that are a meter long, and I've had to do no upscaling whatsoever to get that print. So having that, being able to print really big, but also having that detail, even if you're not printing massive, really helps the quality of the print. You can do the film sims. If you're really into the film simulations that the Fuji cameras are really known for, you can do it with these as well. You can set up your recipes, you can set all your custom settings exactly the same way. This one here doesn't have quite the latest ones. It got I think the one that got released with this camera was Nostalgic Neg, but the 100S2 has everything up until Real Ace. So you've got all the film sims, you've got all the tools you need in order to customize and do your own film recipes, just like the X100 and all the X Pros and the XEs and the XT series cameras. So yeah, if that's your thing, then you can absolutely go for it and do exactly that. On to some of the cons. The weight of the overall kit is pretty hefty. Once I've packed my bag, which is my main bag's the Shimoda 35 litre. Once I've got my whole GFX kit in it, plus your standard camera accessories, it's heavy. It more than exceeds international carry-on by double. So I've had that bag weigh 15 kilos, which is, I don't know how many pounds, but a lot. So that's a downside, and it's the lenses are big and heavy, the bodies are heavier than the smaller systems. So if you do a lot of international travel, it's going to be difficult for you to have all this and carry on. So you're going to have to either sacrifice some of your lenses to the baggage handling gods, and hopefully trust that they survive, or you're going to have to compromise on what you take with you overseas. So that's always a concern, and you always have that anxiety when you're at the airport and you're like, okay, is this the time I'm going to be told to check everything? So yeah, they're all very heavy. The lenses are also very expensive, which you have to expect, because the bodies are expensive as well. The lenses have to cover a larger sensor, and there's an expectation of that higher level of quality from the system. So you have to be prepared to pay a lot of money for the lenses. And if you round out your kit like I have, you've spent a brand new car's worth of money on lenses. It's not a Porsche level of brand new car, but a brand new small hatchback level of money, which when you put it into that perspective, you're like, oh gosh, my car's from 2005, maybe I shouldn't have all this stuff. But on with some of the other cons. Aftermarket lens choice, there's not a lot. There's Mitakon, which have a really big following for their 65 or 1.4. I'd love to have a go with that lens, but I have no reason to have it other than shits and giggles. Also Laowa from Venus Optics. They both make, both them and Mitakon make, they're all manual focus lenses, but they're apparently very nice. I've not used any of them, but it would be nice to have a go with some of them. But they're out there. There's no Sigma, there's no Tamron, there's no, who else? Samyang, Rokinon. They don't make lenses for this mount. I've seen rumours that Sigma will start, which would be awesome. I'd love to see some of their fast lenses in the system, purely because That's another con with the system. There are no fast wide-angle lenses. You're stuck with f4 or f3.5 at best. Fuji have a line of f1.7 lenses. If they were to make a 30mm f1.7, which would be 24mm equivalent, that would be fantastic. That would become my Astro lens of choice, provided it was, you know, sharp and it had all the optical qualities that you need from an Astro lens. And it would mean I don't have to adapt anything for Astro, because as good as the 20 to 35, which I have, is, it's still f4, and you're always going to struggle shooting Astro at f4. But you still get some pretty good Aurora shots with that. I shot the big May Aurora we had on the 11th of May. I shot that with the 20 to 35 predominantly, and it handled that just fine. But yeah, if you want to do Milky Way, you really need something faster than an f4 lens, unfortunately. The file size on these, so if you're shooting uncompressed RAW on these guys, you're looking at a little over 200 megabytes per file, and that quickly eats up card space and hard drive space. So if you shoot a lot of files, that's going to add up very quickly. Speaking of cards, if you're going to use the burst rate on these, and that's another con for these cameras as well, they don't have fast burst rates, but the 100S2 here has a 7 frames per second burst rate. If you're shooting uncompressed RAW, you're going to need a fast card, and fast cards with enough capacity to handle that type of shooting are not cheap. These cards, I've got a few just as backups, and I think all up I have $1,000 in memory cards, which is insane, and that's probably across 5 or 6 in total. And that makes something as insignificant as what would have happened in the past. If you lost a memory card, you just lost some photos. But if I lose a memory card, I'm losing several $100s, which is not a nice feeling. Yeah, that's one of the hidden costs, is you're going to have cards. Another hidden cost is your computer has to have processing power to deal with those files, and the ability to transfer those files. So you're going to have, you know, the latest USB-C speeds. You've got to have enough hard drive space to work on the files and to archive the files. Yeah, that adds up real quick. You're going to end up with terabytes of files after a small career of shooting with these cameras. So yeah, those are all the pros and cons I can think of off the top of my head. This is a very off the cuff video, but if you're interested in the system, feel free to ask any questions in the comments below, and yeah, I'll do my best to answer them. Despite all the cons of the system, it's a fantastic system to get into. While I'm thinking of it, one of the other pros of the system is, especially if you're in New Zealand, Fujifilm NZ are fantastic to deal with. They're really keen to get involved with the people shooting their gear, especially like people like me. I'm a nobody in this world, and I have a contact at Fuji. I can message and say, hey, can I borrow a lens? And if you saw the vlogs from the workshop, they gave me an insane amount of kit to lend out to our attendees on the workshop and use. And yeah, they're always keen to get involved, and they're always sharing their customers' work on their socials. So that's another big thing about Fujifilm, is they're very involved in their user base, which is a real cool thing. But yeah, leave your comments below if you have any questions. I'll do my best to answer them, and yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully some more videos coming out soon. Hopefully get the Horseman out. Really looking forward to shooting with that. But again, the weather's really not helped, and I'm looking for some specific conditions to first bust that out, and that's blue skies, and that's pretty much the opposite of what we've got at the moment. I have a Astro ebook, How to Shoot the Milky Way, that's available on my website, and yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment, because that all helps the channel out. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.